What a lot of people imagine is that starting a poultry farm or starting any kind of farm takes a really long time. You have to plan for it, you have to acquire land, you need to save a lot of money. You really need to plan in order for you to start a farm. And that's true. You need to plan properly for you to start a farm. But you don't need to wait many years before you actually do start a farm. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to actually start and run a poultry farm in just 6 months. In just 6 months, you can start right from scratch and ensure that you have a poultry farm that's up and running and very successful, and it will get you the very best results. So if that's you and that's what you're interested in, come on, you're in the right place. So stick around with this video right through to the very end. Now, just in case you're wondering who the hell I am, I'm Dr. Daniel, a retired medical doctor. I started out as a medical doctor, but I got fed up of it because I was very passionate about farming. So I'm a very passionate farmer, and if you do notice, most of my focus is on poultry farming. So if you're very interested in learning about poultry farming, growing big in the farming industry, you're in the right place. I managed to start a poultry farm with just 800 chickens, and right now I've kept birds in the thousands. I've helped multiple people start their poultry farms and get a lot of money. So if you're interested in it, come on, just hit that subscribe button and stick around right through to the very end. So the first step in you starting a poultry farming business in a really short time is you've got to commit to it. Before you get to the time where you're actually going to start and do all these things, build the chicken houses, you're going to have to commit to the whole idea of starting and building a poultry farm. It all starts with mental work. Without mental work, it's going to be very difficult for you to run a poultry farm because it involves a lot of work. There's a lot of activities. There's a lot of other things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to deal with workers. You're going to have quite a number of workers on your farm. You're going to have to deal with the prices of feeds. You're going to have to deal with poultry diseases sometimes. You're going to have to deal with the market. You're going to have to deal with a lot of things. So it requires a lot of mental and psychological preparation. You've got to commit to it full time. Sometimes you're going to have to be there physically. If you're going to be starting it as a small farm, you have full time, free time, then probably you're going to be running it yourself, and that requires a lot of commitment. Chickens, unlike a lot of other animals like goats and sheep, require a lot of physical presence because you need to make sure that you serve them food, and you need to make sure that you don't leave the food there. Secondly, you need to make sure that you're consistently providing them with water. You need to make sure that you're watching out in case a disease develops or anything that's out of the normal, just to make sure that you get ahead of it on time. So you don't want to make sure that you're absent. You want to be as present as possible, both emotionally and physically. So it requires a lot of commitment. So you need to prepare yourself mentally. Is this something that I really want? Am I willing to commit to it for the long term? Am I willing to do what is required for me to get the results that are required in this business? If you're not, then come on. You've got to get back to it, probably watch a few more videos, see a bit more people doing it, and see what is required for you to do it. Otherwise, prepare yourself mentally, and then you're going to be on the way there. The second step is to learn as much as possible. Becoming a farmer actually requires a lot of learning. Like I've told you, there's a lot of things you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn how to prepare the feed. For me, personally, when I was starting out, I went and read as much as possible. I downloaded a lot of PDFs, read as many books as I can. I just did so much learning. Visited so many farmers to try and gather as much information from all the places that I can as possible. So it is very important that you do as much learning as possible. Yeah, you're going to have to read a lot of books. Read so much. Read as much as possible. At the beginning, it might seem like it's too much stress, too much information gathering, but you want to be as prepared as possible. Now, what I want to tell you in all honesty is that nothing is going to prepare you like experience. So from the beginning, what you need to know is that you're gathering knowledge right at the start, but you're also going to need experience with time. So if you get into hard times, don't forget that, hard times are meant to happen, and that's the advantage of experience. You get a lot of things from experience, but prepare yourself. Learn as much as possible. Read as many books as possible. Watch as many of the farm up videos, on this channel as possible, because on this channel I've shared so many videos about poultry farming. So many, way more than you could ever need. So learn as much as possible. When I was personally starting out, like I've shared many times before, I would download a lot of PDF books. I downloaded a lot of PDF books from the internet, and what I would do is that I would sift through the book, look at one of the book and see the information that it emphasizes, go to another book, see the information that it emphasizes. If I find 10 books emphasizing the same exact information, most likely that information is very important. So read as much as possible, gather as much information as possible. One book is going to focus more on one thing, another book is also going to focus more on another thing. You're going to read a book that's going to focus on diseases, learn as much about the diseases as you can. Then you're going to find another book that's going to focus on feeding, learn as much about the feeding as possible. You're going to find another book that's going to focus on types of management, learn as much as you can about management. Go and visit visit as many farmers as you can. Some of the farmers will be really crappy. They'll be telling you things from their experience, but without any form of knowledge at all. It's okay. Just go and learn from as many as possible. I don't advise you to learn from one, because one most likely is going to simply be a mistake. Learn from as many as possible. Go to this one, go to that one, go to the other one, and gather as much information as possible. That way you have the best bank of information that you can gather from in hard times. Now the third step will be saving money. You're going to have to save money. You're going to need to start to save money. The thing about starting a poultry farm is that it requires money. You can't start a farm without money. A lot of times people come to me and they're like, hey, Dr. Daniel, I want to start a farm, but I'm broke. I don't have money. What do I do? How do I manage to start a farm without money? Guys, it's not possible for you to start a farm without money. You need money, because what you're going to need, land is going to require you to get money. You're going to need, the chicken houses. They're going to require you to get money. You're going to need the chickens themselves. They need money. You're going to need feed. They need money. So you need to save as much as possible. Now, what you need to understand is that you don't need to have too much money to start. That's the mistake people keep thinking. They keep thinking that for you to start a farm, you need to have too much money. No, you don't need to have too much money. You just need to make sure that your money is planned. You need to make sure that you buy land in the correct place. You don't need to buy a very huge chunk, but it's advisable that you buy in a place where you can expand. A lot of times people think about buying land in, urban settings. Sometimes that's not what you need. Yeah, sometimes doing it in a really rural setting might work. So you just need to make sure that you plan properly in terms of your money. What I advise you to do is find some form of job and work. Don't just go around begging for money. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can finance a farm. Yeah, one of them is of course through a bank loan. Another one could be through your own savings. Another one could be through, asking for money from your colleagues, your family, and things like that. What I advise you to do is to save your very own money. I don't advise you to start a farm while using money from the bank. It's possible for you to actually start a farm and thrive using money from the bank, but number one, it's difficult for you to count the cost. It's easier for you to commit to the farm when you've invested your very own money. You're more likely to push through with it, ensure that it succeeds when you invested your own money. If you invested other people's money, well, the commitment is not as much. But secondly, just in case it fails, because honestly, it can fail, you don't want to have a bank loan, because then you're going to be in trouble. If it fails when it was your own money, usually probably because it was a mistake or something like that, it's easier for you to gather yourself and start again, compared to if you have to pay back interest in a bank and then you use your staff as security. They're going to come and want to take it. So save your own money. Get a job, work as much as possible. I personally, when I started out, I was working as a doctor. So I saved my own money, used my own money, saved it, and then I started my farm, and here I am. I've gotten to really huge figures simply utilizing the money that I started out with. Not too much money. The fourth step is identify a proper place. Now, if you're going to be starting a farm, it's very important that wherever you start the farm is the right place. Where you start your farm is actually a deal breaker. If you start your farm in the wrong place, you're going to suffer. I see a lot of people who start their farms in urban places. Starting your farm in an urban place could actually be a very, very terrible idea. Really terrible idea. Why? Because usually in urban places, number one, there's not a lot of land. So if you want to expand, that could be a problem. Secondly, you're going to cause a lot of noise pollution. People are going to be complaining about, smells from the chicken houses. My chicken houses don't smell. For example, I'm here recording a video, but I'm not smelling anything because I'm using deep litter. But some people use cages. Some people don't use their deep litter well, and then the place just starts smelling. That becomes a problem. So you want to make sure that you don't start it in an urban place sometimes. Thirdly, a lot of times in urban places, there's a lot of competition. People have started farms around those areas before, and the farms have done well. So there's a lot of competition. So sometimes you want to avoid an urban place. But also, rural places sometimes have the advantage, I'm not saying always, but sometimes have the advantage of little competition, depending on the kind of product you want to be selling. If you're going to be selling eggs, like I do sell eggs on this farm, it's easier usually to sell them in rural areas because there's less competition there. But if you're going to be selling chickens for meat, it's harder to sell them in rural areas, because in rural areas, for me, for example, in my country, people only consume their local chickens. Everyone grows their own chickens and they consume their local chickens. If you're going to be taking to them commercial chickens, those are broilers, they're going to be like, what the hell is this? Yeah, why is this person giving us commercial chickens? I don't eat broilers. It's very expensive. While for their local chickens, they can raise them in their compound and then get money from them without having to feed them with any commercial feed. If they're to raise broilers, they're going to have to feed them. They need special conditions. So it might not be a good idea for you to start a broiler farm in an area which is rural. So make sure that you start your farm in the correct correct place. Don't start your farm in a place which is very expensive, where you're going to spend a lot of money on land. Don't start your farm in a place where getting raw materials is going to be very difficult and you need to transport the raw materials a very long distance. Be very calculative about starting your farm and identify the right place where you do want to start your farm. Now the next step is build a cheap house. You want to make sure that you build a cheap house. I find a lot of people who are starting farms and they make the mistake of building an expensive house. That's really a waste of money. Now you'll ask me why I think it's a waste of money when it's actually an investment in a business. Well, I'll tell you the honest truth. On a farm, the thing that's going to bring you the money is the chickens themselves. You're not going to get money from the house. Yeah, this house doesn't give me money. This house that I built and this house that you see over here are only an expense. They don't bring me money. The chickens that are inside there are the ones that actually do bring me money. Without the chickens, it's nothing. And chickens don't give a damn about the type of structure that you build. Whether it's built from marble or it's built from grass and wood, as long as it's comfortable enough for them, that's all they care about. They won't be like, whoa, our house is more luxurious than the other chicken houses. Whoa, we'll give him more eggs because he built us a more luxurious house. No, all they want is the comfort, as long as they are comfortable. So what are the things that you need to consider? Only consider the factors that ensure that the house is good. It depends on where your house is located. For example, for me right here, I built a double-story chicken house. You can see it right here. Well aerated, simply using wooden poles and iron sheeting. That's all. That's enough, and it's comfortable enough for the chickens. The chickens are comfortable enough to give me what I need, and for me, what do I need? All I need is eggs from them. And as long as they have the feed inside there, number one. Number two, as long as they have the water inside there. Number three, as long as the place is well aerated, they have enough space, they are good enough to go. The place is not too hot, it's comfortable for them. They are good enough to go, and they will give me the eggs. So same exact thing, yeah? Just make sure that your house is comfortable enough, but don't build it very expensively with a lot of brick and things like that. Remember, you're starting out. First of all, you haven't even proven the concept that it will work in your area. So why do you want to invest too much money when you haven't even proven the concept? This chicken house here can last, 15 years that you see right here, 15 years or more. Simply using wood and, iron sheeting. It can last at least 15 years. So what else would you need? I mean, after 15 years, you could build another one to take you another 15 years. Or after 15 years, you'll have enough money to build a gold-coated chicken house. But at the start, you don't need that. It's just going to take your money and not get you anything. So build a cheap chicken house as long as it's built from the correct material. I'll leave a link to how to build a proper chicken house in the description of the video so you can check it out. But just make sure you build a cheap chicken house, but proper. And the next step, number 6, is start the farm. Now, more likely, I would advise you to start a broiler farm, because a broiler farm is easier to start. Within a few weeks, the birds are sold. Within just 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the target weight which people are going to buy at in the market, the birds have reached market weight. So just start the farm. A lot of people spend a lot of time meditating, getting a lot of information, looking here, looking there. No, what you need is to start the farm. Like I've been saying, what's going to give you money on the farm is actually the chickens themselves. As long as you don't have chickens on the farm, you're just wasting time. You're wasting money. So make sure that you do have chickens on the farm. Start the farm out. Get chickens onto the farm. Once you get chickens onto the farm, that's all you need. Chickens on the farm and the thing is going to be running. So the easiest thing, like I said, is starting out a broiler farm. Just start with a few. It depends on how big your wallet is, how much money you have, but start with a few numbers. Depending on where you're located, some people, a few numbers might be 5,000, but for some people, it might be 100. Start with 100 and see how well it works out. Now, what you need to understand is that if you're going to be starting out a broiler farm, you can start with a bit more numbers, because you're going to keep the birds for only 6 weeks and you're done. You're going to have money back and then you're going to reinvest it. But if you're going to be starting with a layer farm usually requires a bit more money and a bit more time. So with broilers, in 6 weeks, you're going to have your birds being sold. Maximum 6 weeks, sometimes 7, 8 weeks if you want really big birds. But 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to have your birds sold. But for layers, like I do over here, birds that produce eggs, you're going to keep the birds for at least 18 weeks before they start giving you an egg. And at least 20 weeks or 21 weeks before there's something substantial coming from the birds that can actually feed them themselves. So you want to make sure that you raise your birds properly. You want to make sure that the birds are raised properly, there's enough space inside the chicken houses. You want to make sure that you give them the correct feed, you give them the correct nutrition. You want to make sure that they are vaccinated properly. Just make sure you do your homework, start out with the birds, bring them in and start the process. And finally, step number 7, especially if you started out with broilers, just replicate the process. And what's replicating the process? Once the birds have come and then you've confirmed that you can sell the bird, then do it over and over again. Usually that means build another chicken house using the profit that you've gotten from your very first batch, and then bring in a second batch. So what you usually want to do is to make sure you have batches running at the same time. Now let me explain what that means. If you have broilers, you raise them until 3 weeks. If you plan on selling them at 6 weeks, raise them until 3 weeks. And then when they are 3 weeks old, you bring in another batch so that when the other ones are 6 weeks old and you've sold them, you have another batch that's 3 weeks old. That way you keep your market running. In fact, sometimes you can even bring in birds every 2 weeks. So once one batch reaches 2 weeks, you bring in another one. While the first batch is at 4 weeks, you bring in another one. Then that means every 2 weeks, you're going to have a batch of birds to sell. And that means that you're going to be able to continuously satisfy your market. And then you're going to have money coming in. Nothing complicated about it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a quick template of how to actually start and run a poultry farm in just 6 weeks, and you actually have a lot of money in your bank account. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell, that way you never miss out on upload. It's getting quite hot. I need to get going. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.